Yes, indeed. Welcome into the first 2025 episode of Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now YouTube channel. It is still acceptable to say Happy New Year. I know that we can have that debate later of when the cutoff is, but that over there is at Ant Rivera 86. That down there is at Fuzzy Chris 91. I am at Pucking Thoughts. Happy you're with us here to kick off the new year. We got World Juniors going on. We got some guys going on the IR in New York. And we'll take a look at the Eastern Conference and a little Alexis Lafreniere. But fellas, everybody bringing the new year okay?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Second half of hockey. Is this now we're in the second half of the hockey season? Is that fair to say?
I mean, it's second on the calendar end. I mean, standings wise, games played wise, I got to look up right now. We're just shy of that. Maybe most teams got about three or four games before they're at the halfway point.
But we now know like the pretenders and the contenders of each division and of each league right now, I would assume.
So I would say mostly yes in the East. The West is still a little wide open for that middle tier. We can absolutely, but we're definitely going to figure out who that other team in the East is, because it kind of feels like, 7 teams are already established in the East, even in January. Chris has got the Canada jersey on there. They take on, I believe, Czechia tonight in the nightcap there after the Finland game coming up here.
That is correct. I am preparing myself for disappointment. It's not easy, man. I feel like it's maybe just like Ottawa, like the minute you play in that arena, just disappointment hangs over you. But let's see if Canada can figure it out. If you didn't watch the last game, don't bother. Let's see if they can stay out of the penalty box, because I feel like they should probably pay rent at this point for how much time they spent in it. It would be unfair for them to just live there rent free. But I'm still hoping.
Now, who was that last game that Canada played against? Just that you didn't want to watch. Who was that against?
Doesn't matter really. It was a good showing by the Americans. They, look, give credit where credit is due. They came out. They had 7 power plays. They scored 3 power play goals. Travis looked great in net. They did what they needed to do. I just love watching these kids because it's raw emotion. They don't care about defense. They're out there committing just the worst penalties in the world. Double IHF refereeing. No matter what we may say about NHL officiating, double IHF officiating is down bad. It's the worst. That's one thing we can all agree on. Death, taxes, and double IHF referees just being absolutely miserable. So yeah, I just need Canada to rail it in a little bit here.
This is good preparation for you for the Four Nations. Right? This is getting you ready for that kind of disappointment when we get to the Four Nations.
I'm just saying that Canada sports McDavid, Crosby, and McKinnon, and I don't know any other nation that has that type of center down the middle there. Like imagine if Sidney Crosby was your third center on like any team. That's all I'm saying.
Well, we got about 6 weeks till Four Nation face off. World Junior quarterfinals are underway. United States just wrapping things up with a 7-2 victory over Switzerland. Earlier today, Sweden beats Latvia 3-2. I don't know if anybody saw that game, but Sweden had a 3-0 lead by early in the second period, and it was kind of feeling like, all right, Sweden's doing what they're going to do. And then Latvia clawed their way back in, and they made them sweat all the way through the third period. So, not the result Latvia wanted, but Sweden gets a little bit of a test, and then Finland, Slovakia about to drop the puck, and then Canada, Czechia tonight. Germany avoids relegation with the 4-3 win over Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan's going to drop down to the B division with the winner of between Italy, Estonia, Japan, Poland, South Korea, or Ukraine bumping up into the A tier for the next World Juniors. So I love that little relegation format there. Speaking of big hockey events, the Winter Classic was held on New Year's Eve, not New Year's Day, New Year's Eve at Wrigley Field for the second time ever. The Blues won a not close game 6-2. The over of 5.5 was easy money there, considering Pete Mrazek was in one of those nets and the way Chicago's been playing. Chicago now 0-5 all time in the Winter Classic. They've been in roughly a third of them. And listen, I don't want to spend too much time rehashing points we made on the show, but while I understand marketability is extremely important, can we pick 2 teams next year for the actual Winter Classic that look like they're going to be good teams. Like nobody thought Chicago was going to be good this year. Think about what the Blues would have looked like had they not offered-sheeted the two Edmonton Oilers, Britt and Jim Montgomery, and traded for Cam Fowler, who had 2 goals in that game. I mean, like, I understand, but like, can we get like 2 top teams next year? Can we get like Florida versus Washington or something like that?
No, you keep going back to the well until Chicago gets that first win. They keep playing there until Chicago finally wins one.
I mean, they're running out of Chicago venues. They played Soldier. They played Wrigley twice. Go play where the White Sox play. At least freshen that. Although maybe they don't want to go to this outside of Chicago. Maybe not the best idea. I don't know.
I don't know why we just keep why do we keep giving the Chicago Blackhawks anything? That was like, if you didn't know it was happening, I mean, that's some of us were looking at the schedule and going, oh, that they're not playing on January 1st. Instead, they treated us to the Devils and Kings on New Year's Day, which was
in a standalone game.
In a standalone game on New Year's, right? And then they gave us a 5:00 on December 31st game. But yes, I think it's time we just retire Chicago from the Winter Classics and stuff, and because it was not a spectacle. I feel bad for the people who bought tickets for it. Like, if you, as someone who has been to one, you go for the experience. I get that, but you still got to dish out money, and you still hope your team shows up. All right, I went in 2016 to Gillette Stadium, watched Montreal and Boston. And Montreal was having an absolutely miserable year that year. They were really bad. Mike Condon was in net for that game. Brendan Gallagher was, came back for it. Like, Montreal it was a good experience, but again, you go for the atmosphere, you go for everything that's there. And Chicago just looked miserable. This is a miserable team. Let's not get it twisted. So maybe the NHL. I know they like to keep beating the dead horse here, but maybe we tried, like you said, some different teams. Like, it's not like we can't host, I don't know, Minnesota and somebody else. There's still lots of, like, there's good quality teams in the North if you want to find one. We just don't have to keep giving it to Chicago. That also, we don't give it to Buffalo, right? We're not doing that. Like, let's maybe move on as well from, I don't know, the Islanders. Let's move on from the Flyers. Let's try to, like you said, pick some teams that at least a spectacle will be good.
We have to assume, right, that this is picked a year in advance, but even then,
roughly,
yeah, even then, like, we all knew Chicago was going to stink, right? I mean, we take the 2 top teams. I just don't know how you do this. So, like, take the 2 teams that were in the Stanley Cup final, or take some of these playoff teams and do it. There's enough. Figure a way to make this work, because I honestly didn't even tune in. Like, as much as you love hockey, like, who's tuning into that game? Yeah, the atmosphere is beautiful, but like, these teams stink.
And that's a good point, because yes, it's the atmosphere, it's a spectacle, it's all the bells and whistles and all the the alumni game and all that other stuff. But like, at the end of the day, if you're going to do that, you have to make it like a true standalone, not like, okay, there's no competing games, but there was a few games played before and a few games, because it just gets lost in the shuffle on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, excuse me, where, I can understand maybe only having a handful of games before and after, but that's just like, it was just another game in the day. And it was far from being the best matchup of New Year's Eve.
And they're also battling out with college football bowl games. Like,
playoffs. Yeah.
It's the new playoff format. You got some of the best teams out there playing right now. And for hockey to promote, which Chris always talks about, the promotion, you're giving us in one of the supposed to be the biggest games of the year outside of the Stanley Cup Finals, you're giving us Chicago versus St. Louis. And there's tons of other teams that are well deserving of that honor.
Not a good start for Slovakia. 70 seconds into the game, down 1-0. So Finland's got a lead there. But yeah, it's just, again, like, one of the ideas, and I know the Capitals just played the Hurricanes last year down at NC State, but like Baltimore, yes, it's not Washington, but it's right up the road. There's no hockey team there. Camden Yards has never had a game. Do one there. Do, like I said, do Capitals Panthers next year. The Panthers, unless the Panthers lose Barkov, Kachuk, Bobrovsky, like, they're going to be good. They're not going to be bad. And I understand, like, hey, look at the Rangers. Everybody thought they'd be one of the better teams in the division. Clearly not the case. We'll talk more about them later. Things do happen, but there was not a scenario where Chicago, St. Louis was going to be a good game, besides the fact that they're old rivals. That's it.
Well, you can't plan for teams like the Rangers falling out. There's no plan for that a year in advance. But hey, you know what? Let's do the Winter Classic. What do you think about Chicago and St. Louis? Chicago stinks, but they got Connor Bedard.
That's all
Like, I mean, there's so many other teams that they could be doing this with.
Well, hopefully, and that's the thing. They have the other game to like kind of get like the lesser teams in the mix. Like Columbus finally going to host one here coming up. It's that's what that other game is for. The one that you're going to market on New Year's Day, on New Year's Eve, whatever day you decide around that time of the year, because they've had it on January 2nd too. In the past, they would avoid going against like the NFL and things like that, but they decided to just make it another day of hockey. So we'll see what they do next year. But yeah, it was less than what was not a competitive game, and we'll see what happens for next year. A couple of notes on the ice. Austin Matthews skated with the team in practice, and he's nearing a return, but he will not play tonight. But the weekend is looking like he'll be okay to be back by the weekend. Jonathan Drouin returned for the Colorado Avalanche after a 16-game absence and scored a couple of goals in the win over the division-leading Jets. Colorado recently got back Arturi Lehkonen. Top six is looking good. Bottom six is a bit of a mess with Calvin DeHaan, a defenseman playing on the wing right now. 8-2 in their last 10. They recently signed Mackenzie Blackwood to a 5-year, $5.25 annual average value extension. He's been 5-1 and has since he's gotten traded there and hasn't allowed more than 2 goals in any of his starts. Is Colorado fixed? Can we say, like, in a good way, not like a dog or a cat, but like, are they fixed? Are they back to being where we want to be, where they want to be, and where we expected them to be?
If they win, more kudos to them for these moves that they pulled off. But I feel like I've seen enough of Mackenzie Blackwood to know that 6 games isn't going to swing a 5-year extension. Like, what's
less
happening?
than that when they signed him too.
I want somebody to believe in me as much as Colorado's front office believes in Mackenzie Blackwood. That's all I want in life, man. He came in there, had like a great 4 or 5 game showing, and they're like, "Yeah, man, here's 5 years, sit right here." But like, I'm not there yet. Like, Colorado is healthy-ish, so that obviously helps because they have real NHL players at their top 6. Yes, they still have some, they got a defenseman play on the wing, so that's problematic. But as a team, we know that they are good, that they're very top heavy. And as long as that top continues to drag them, they just need, like, Mackenzie Blackwood just has to be decent. I don't care which wood it is. Blackwood, Wedgwood, doesn't matter. Just like be decent. They don't even have to be elite. Just not be as terrible as Alexander Gorgiev was. The bar is the floor. That's all they got to do.
I mean, if you're a Colorado or a Denver-based lumber company and you're not getting in on the Blackwood, Wedgwood right now, I mean, that shame on you. Somebody's got to be talking to the team on that. Got to be like lumber liquidators in the area. Somebody. But yeah, I thought it was like getting engaged after like 3 dates, and it's like, let's hold that. Like there was no rush to sign that extension. Like the season's not ending tomorrow. But I guess it's goaltending has been so paltry for so long in Colorado that they saw a guy who was doing what he did at the end of his time with the Sharks and then is continuing that with the Avalanche. And they're like, oh, we got to get more of that. But as Ant knows, the other shoe could drop with Mackenzie Blackwood.
The real winner here, his agent. I mean,
yes.
he got somebody to bite. So good for his agent for saying, hey, you should probably lock this up immediately. And someone in Colorado's office looking at the analytics and went, yep, that's a good idea.
2-0 Finland, by the way. Okay, the Slovaks not off to a good start there.
Is anybody shocked yet?
No, nobody's shocked. With Finland, we thought we'd probably win here. But back to the Avalanche. I mean, listen, if you started the season with Georgiev and Anunin, and now you have Blackwood and Wedgwood, yes, it's an upgrade. It's an upgrade. It's probably good enough for what they need. And $5.25 million a year for a goalie that's going to start for you when maybe you don't need to invest in like a Igor Shesterkin level contract in net. Maybe it's one of these contracts that, maybe we'll have egg on our face. Maybe Mackenzie Blackwood has finally figured it out. Maybe he's got a team in front of him that can score enough goals that doesn't matter if he, has a little bit of a bad stretch here and there, because they got a team that can, they put 5 up on Winnipeg the other night. And, I know there was Comrie, but still.
It's definitely an ownership in Colorado that's like, we're going to win with our star players on the ice, and we won a Stanley Cup with Darcy Kemper, so we could put anyone in there and probably win. That's probably the thought process going in through that whole situation.
I agree. They're not necessarily producing high quality goalies in Colorado. So they're just like, hey, just be average. Just show up and just try not to suck. That's as simple as that for goaltending in Colorado. Just be decent.
Yeah, exactly. Like, as long as he doesn't stink, as long as he's adequate, that's all they need. And that's what they weren't getting. They were not getting adequate goaltending from, Georgiev or Noonan. Like, so this is what and as long as he stays healthy, they should be okay. And Wedgwood is a fine backup if he's going to play every fifth game, we'll say. So there we go. Let's NHL draft. The 2025 NHL draft is going to be in Los Angeles and will be the first non-COVID year draft to be decentralized since the draft began in 1963. What does decentralized mean? All it means is that the teams are going to work from their home facilities versus having the entire floor of an arena occupied by 32 makeshift conference table setups for people to operate there. So just like when the Cowboys make a pick and they flash back to Jerry Jones at the Cowboys facilities and they're all shaking each other's hands because they selected somebody, like then they're congratulating each other. Why, I don't know. But yes, that's all this means for that. And they're going to have the draft in more of a theater kind of situation versus an arena. So that's all that means. I'd like to get to the NHL draft one year. I mean, it's a cool event. I mean, it'll never be like it was last year in the Sphere. I mean, they just set a bar there that like, hey, sometimes you do something once and then you don't do it again. Like, because I mean, that was it right there.
Yeah, we're going to have to get Total Hockey Now media passes to get to the draft here. You're going to be closest, so you can get right out there for us.
So the only issue is my wife's birthday is like the day after the NHL draft weekend. So we'll have to see if I can make it down to LA somehow and cover it. But we'll see. Dicey.
She has a birthday every year, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right.
I'm not trying to put you in the doghouse. I'm just like, a birthday's every year. You know what I mean? Like, is it a special one? Like, is it a 40, 50?
Do it in San Jose and I'm there. Absolutely. But
I mean, then you have to do it in San Jose. I will say this, though. I'm interested to see how the decentralizing goes, because if it's Gary Bettman going up there every time, that first round is going to take 7 hours. I'm going to be out of, like, I won't have a voice from voicing my opinion about Gary. So I don't know, man. I don't maybe send like one team rep, somebody there, I don't know, to stand up there, make the pick. Just don't give Gary the mic too often.
Well, as much as I liked how the NHL was like kind of different from all the other drafts that are out there, having every single person go up from the entire organization and say a little something and then announce the draft pick, I thought was a bit much, but let's see how this one works out. Let's see.
You send one guy up there, all right?
Yeah.
One guy to represent. Like we all had those school projects, right? Where we would send one guy up and he would, he or she would speak for the group. They were the presenter. That's what it is. You're right. We don't need, Jeff Molson's son and then this kid from here and then some other dude from here. Like, just send up one dude and then shake the kid's hand, take a picture with Gary and, Bill Daly, and then let's, go do your TSN interview and let's get out of here.
Agreed. That is the one thing about the NHL draft that was annoying, is that you have like 7 people coming on the stage. They all got to say a little something. And it's like, no. Like, and even like when the NFL has like somebody special from the team to announce the pick, they'll usually say like one 5 to 10 second thing. And then it's with the 17th pick in the blah, blah, blah draft. It's, yeah. So I could see that too, where like each team send like, the Panthers send Roberto Luongo, somebody like that. Every team sends one for the first round. And then after that, maybe Gary Bettman does like a round of picks. And then, an assistant commissioner or somebody else could, just like the NFL draft. Goodell doesn't do every pick. He does the first round and then somebody else takes over. So we'll see what happens there, but that'll be fun to watch this year. Let's get to, we're going to be talking some Rangers here coming up. Next couple of stories here. First, let's hit to Igor Shesterkin, was placed on the IR with an upper body injury. This coming after a 5-3 loss to the Panthers earlier in the week when Sam Bennett was checked into Igor Shesterkin. He stayed in the game, but now he's on the IR. 11-15-1 in 27 games, 906 save percentage, and a 310 goals against. While the Rangers are 20th in goals against per game this season, Shesterkin is second among all goalies with 13 goals saved above replacement. We're going to talk more about Lafreniere and the fantasy perspective here in a second, but just with the Rangers overall here, we all know what the Oilers did last season, but they kind of started to turn things around in late November. We're officially in a new calendar year. This is a Rangers team when they're hot, they burn white hot, but they have yet to burn white hot at all this season. They're a point above dead last in the East, 7 points behind Ottawa for the second wild card spot, and 13 points behind the Metropolitan 3 spot. Are we officially declaring the Ranger season toast? Is this it? It's over.
Man, I think it is. And I'm not trying to be because I'm a Devils fan, but like losing Shesterkin is like the icing on the crap cake, is it not? Like, you know, he is the most important person on that team, really. You signed him to the big extension. There's another player that signed to a big extension that hasn't been living up to his end of the bargain as well. And when I look back to the Oilers last season, I'm trying to remember, was there really anything going on behind the scenes with the players and the general manager and the coach? Was that like, I don't think there was such, like, I know they got rid of the coach, but I don't think there was this such big of a mess that's going on right now in New York.
It was probably like to some degree, but like some of that stuff, but not to the extent where like it's just the whole locker room is completely tuned out management, and it seems like something they can't resolve.
Yeah, what the Edmonton Oilers had was Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. I don't know any other team that has those two individuals. Yeah. So, look, I said this last time. I'll say it again. I am not crying for the New York Rangers. I am not shedding a tear. Like when I watch Cabo Caco leave town, when I see Chris Kreider the press box, I'm not crying here. I'm not crying for the man who just signed a brand new deal. Anyways, this Ranger team is a mess. They are horrible. They're not very good. And they just look completely checked out. That first game against Florida, they looked miserable. And they still look miserable. And I mean, like you said, Igor Shesterkin's not the problem there. He has been so good, and yet his numbers look terrible. You imagine if he was just average? Like, you imagine, like, Ranger fans are somewhat blaming him, like, as if he's a problem. Like, how they could have not signed him right away. They could have saved some, like, couple of $1 million. I would have been like, no, it probably would have gone up even more because the Rangers would have been so bad. They would have had to justify giving him enough money to stick around. Like, look, if you had the Montreal Canadiens 4 points ahead of the New York Rangers entering January, I would have called you crazy. But here we are. So I do not feel bad for the Rangers. To me, this team is just like they're done. They're cooked. They are.
So they're done. But
yeah. We're done, Rangers. I don't want to see a single Ranger fan come up here and tell me that they have hope in their eyes, because I got some magic beans I will gladly sell you. This team can't figure it out. Like what are you gonna do? Like, what are you gonna do? All of a sudden turn the switch on? Like, is Zibanejad gonna care? Like, is he gonna turn around and figure it out? This team is like it's lacking. They're lacking an identity. They just don't. They're so bad as well. And a part of me is like, well, it's not all on the players, right? Because part of that is on Laviolette as well to make sure. But they are just like they're making some just dumb decisions, and they're so poor defensively sometimes. This team is getting rocked. And it snowballs, right? When losing makes everything worse. Everything is just like, the elevator guy annoys you a little bit more. The light turning yellow annoys you a little bit more. Everything just gets a little more annoying. It must not be fun to go to the rink either. Having Larry Brooks write a new article every day about how terrible you are as a team and having to read it. So I don't know, man. I can't see them turning this around, because that Metropolitan Division is starting to figure itself out. And oh, by the way, the Atlantic is probably one of the better divisions in hockey right now. So good luck.
If I'm Drury, I think it's time to start trading pieces off if you can. I don't know how many contracts they could try to trade off, but they should. Adam, I don't know how you feel about some type of rebuilding process. Obviously, you're going to rebuild around Shesterkin and Lafreniere right now, but every time, and this is the same group of players that have been around for a while now, every time that they make this like deep run, but just can't get across the finish line, the next year is a mess, right? They made it all the way to the Eastern Conference final once they lost that one to Tampa Bay. They got bounced in the first round to the Devils. Went back again, lost to Florida, and I think this was the year that we really thought that there was an opportunity for them to get to Stanley Cup since they were the best team in the league. They lose then, and now the whole team is just completely falling apart.
Well, I think for last year, there was a decent chunk of the Ranger fan base felt like, all right, this is really this is probably our best chance this year. Like, yeah, maybe they get back next year, but like with that was it. You know, like you said, you get to the conference finals 2 times in 3 years. How many times are you going to get back there? Chris implied, the possibility, like if any Ranger fan has hope. I don't think there's any Ranger fans that have any hope for this turning around, especially now with Shesterkin go. That was it. If anything else, it's like, okay, at least you had Shesterkin. At least you had one of the best goalies in the world to maybe bail you out once in a while. Anybody that's blaming Shesterkin, please email totalhockeynow@gmail.com and explain why Igor Shesterkin is the problem with the Rangers. There it is right there. Because there's only so much a goalie can do when the team is playing the way they're playing in front of him.
But also, does Laviolette, he's been getting a lot of blame too. He took them last year to the ECF. Is it his fault now too?
I don't think it's his fault, but if you're gonna, on one
he's
side,
the easiest scapegoat, right?
It's an easy scapegoat. So some people be like, all right, change the coach, see what that does. But you already have changed so much and nothing has happened. Like, I see both sides of the argument. Like, okay, fine. You can't change coaches as frequently as you do, but it is the NHL. So the shelf life on these, 3 years is a long time for an NHL coach to be with one team. It feels like if you make 3 years, it's like, whoa, let's throw the guy a party. I could see Laviolette becoming the next, but I could see that kind of being like a Robert Salo with the Jets situation. Like people thought, oh, let's get the coach out of here and things will get better, and things got worse. So, I don't really see how things can go worse for the Rangers. Yeah. But who's that guy you're bringing in for instead of Laviolette right now?
And also, I think the Rangers losing Laviolette hurts them more than him, because I'm pretty sure he could just find a job somewhere else.
In the NHL, it's basically you got 20 coaches that basically just recycle throughout teams, and then there's maybe 10 to 12 spots where you get an assistant on the rise or a college coach or something like that where they actually freshen up. Usually it's the same 15 to 20 guys for a good 10 to 15 year window. Just like we said, every 2 to 3 years. You look at Jim Montgomery. We woke up in Boston one morning and the next week coaching the St. Louis Blues. So, I'm not ready to declare them dead yet, but man, it's time to start calling the family and saying your last goodbye. Come to the hospital and start saying your goodbyes. That's where the Rangers are at right now, I think.
Yeah,
they probably won't even get there in time because of all the downtown traffic in Manhattan. So don't even bother leaving. Just Skype in. The good news is here though, Ranger fans, there's one defenseman signed past next season, which is Adam Fox. The rest of them are either UFAs or RFAs. So if you want to change something, the blue line's probably where it's going to happen. Don't start trashing your Chris Kreider, your Mika Zibanejad, your Artemi Panarin jersey. Those guys aren't going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. Those guys are not going anywhere with those massive contracts, and the Rangers are probably not going to try to hold on to any money. And they're not going to move a pick to, I don't know, have Columbus pick up. Well, nobody wants to go to Columbus. Well, any other team, nobody's you know what I mean? They're not going to trade a pick just so they can take these guys. Artemi Panarin still got what? He's still got one more year after this year. I think he probably gets a contract to stay. It depends on the money there. But, Zibanejad's got 100 years. Trocheck's got 100 years. Lafreniere's just got his new deal here. What do you want to change? It's coming on the back end. And, the back end is a problem, but this is a team issue. Maybe they need a little bit more leadership in that room. Probably, like you said, it's easier to just fire a coach and then let Laviolette walk. But I think that if Laviolette's walking, I'm pretty sure Drury's going to go with him. Those guys are going to take the subway. They're going to take the subway together.
But that's the thing is Drury is liked by Dolan. So Drury's not going to be getting fired. That's the thing. In the NHL, it's like we say, it's easy to just, make the coach the scapegoat, whether it is the coach or not. Sometimes it is the coach needs to be canned and you need a new voice in there. I don't think that's the case here at the Rangers. It's just, yeah. Like I said, I'm not ready to declare them dead yet, but it's time to come say your final goodbyes because that's coming. unless they start winning, unless all of a sudden they rattle off like 3 out of 4 and they have reason to start getting, positive again, and maybe they have something to build off of. But there has been nothing. It has been a barren landscape on for their season. They have not played. It seems like they haven't played good hockey since Halloween.
Yeah, unfortunately. And I think Chris has yet to witness the wonder and majesty of the owner that is James Dolan. He has really yet to put his foot on the Rangers. He's always been on top of the Knicks for so long. And now it seems like he's starting to creep his way into the Rangers side of things. So I'd watch out for that. That's for sure.
Terrible. 3-0 Finland. So, there we go. Now let's bring up, so we do fantasy on the show. That's one of the reasons we're here. Speaking of the Rangers, fantasy focus, and it's Alexis Lafreniere. And, this is just to say, let's start off by saying, if we're talking keeper league, there's no discussion. You're holding on to him. There's no doubt about that. But in a redraft league, if you have a deeper roster, if it's a deeper league, maybe you're still holding on to him. But in the FSGA league, he's been on my roster, and I think it might be time for me to cut bait for him. I'm coming to you guys for some help here. You need to tell me if this needs, I've been thinking about it. I've been going back and forth. Is it time to finally do it in the FSGA league here? And I'll bring up the stats. I'll bring up the team in a minute. But in our league, you have finally cut bait with the man.
And honestly, you are talking to the two best people right now, because I think Chris picked him up. But I dropped
was right on it.
Yeah, I dropped bait this week. I could not. I tried for so long. This is Huberdeau for me all over again. And the only other Ranger I would have drafted was Shesterkin. And I was like, you know what? Lafreniere's turned a corner. He'll finally get an extension that'll set things in tone for him. He'll be that franchise type player that they drafted. And since, I want to say, December 6th, he has 4 points. 4. And they're all assists. And his last point was on December 15th against the St. Louis Blues. That's his contributions to the fantasy world right now. And I can't hang on to that. It's not only him, but he is being affected by the play around him as well. So I had to cut bait because I am in 8th and trying to get myself back to at least that 6th spot. And there were some players that I think I picked up Kadri, and there was a couple other guys that I can't remember that I right off the top of my head. But yeah, I had to cut bait. I just couldn't hold on any longer.
And the man who picked him up?
I mean, one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? We've made it so far. To be honest, I was trying to pick up Drake Matheson, and then Gene just decided he didn't need any of that fab. He just went out there and blew it out of the water. So my second best option here was Lafreniere. The minute I saw he was available, I needed somebody on the roster, and I said, hey, what an absolute perfect time to buy. I feel like this was kind of those like a Boxing Day sale, but like going out of business Boxing Day sale, and they pay the tax and the shipping is free. Because I don't know where you drafted them at, but you probably invested, somewhere in the upper echelons of trying to draft him. And I was like, well, now I get him for free. That's what I get. I get full upside here. That's all I get. There's no downside. It's all upside. Has he been?
I got him at a good. I thought him. I know I got him pretty good.
Round 9.
All right. Well, I got him in whatever the last round is now. So I clearly get the best value here. And to be fair, he's not the problem. Again, he's not the problem in New York. There are lots of other problems. Good news here. A couple of good things. A, he is skating on the top line with Artemi Panarin and Vincent Trocheck. Two of the, again, the Rangers are not playing well, but there's some hope here for them. There's some hope. 2, and I can't believe it has happened, Alexis Lafreniere is on the top power play unit. We've made it. We've gotten to where we need to be. He had no power play points last year because he didn't get any power play time on the top unit. Now Kreider is a walking L. Zibanejad is a dead corpse, and he's getting his opportunity now on that top line. At some point, it's going to click. Like Homie scored 29 goals last year. Again, it's been rough. But if I can get decent production out of him here for half a year, why not? I got no risk here. No risk.
You don't, and you're in first place, so it could be a possible steal here. But for me, who's sitting in 8th, I look at his stats, and it's not across the board for me. For him, for a guy that's in the top line, he's just not working. And I got to get there's going to be a lot of movement going on right now, so people are probably going to get some good deals from my players if they're not performing on a weekly basis.
Look at the good news there. Look at the ice time up there. 19 minutes a game, 20 minutes a game. Like the opportunity is there. In fantasy hockey, there's one thing you want, and that is abundance of opportunity. You want, if the player's not getting any opportunities, you say, okay, well, then he's not, it's hard for him to do things. But if he's getting the opportunity to do things and play, and again, the Rangers are terrible, so they're not going to keep running out the same thing. Something's got to change here. And Lafreniere got his big deal. He's, you're not going to sit him on the bench. You got to roll him out there. So I thought this was a great opportunity. And if you're in a league somewhere where you can buy low on Alexis Lafreniere, go out and get him. Just, see if somebody's like Ant, not willing to wait, a little bit on the cusp of trying to make the playoffs here. While some of us, the rich keep getting richer. And that's me. I just keep getting richer now. And I love it.
Happy New Year to you as well, Marek. We'll have our debate on the acceptable end date of Happy New Year's later, but I think we agree January 2nd still well within the Happy New Year range. Back to Lafreniere though. So I guess the next question, if I'm going to paint the picture here, is you got to look at who I would pick up for him. Keep in mind in a fantasy point format here, guys I was considering: Fabian Zetterlund, Tomas Hertl, and then one other guy I was looking at down here. If maybe Connor Garland, Alexei Protas. I mean, I should. You're saying, Chris, Lafreniere is worth holding on to and waiting, than getting a guy like Zetterlund, who has pretty consistent point production in the format there, as you see his game log there, and then a guy like Hertl. Yeah, maybe he's been a little bit of a slump lately too, but he's playing on a Vegas team where there's certainly more opportunity there to get going. You still think a Lafreniere is worth holding on to over those guys?
To me, like Fabian Zetterlund plays for the San Jose Sharks, so let's cool the expectation there. He's getting opportunity, but it's a piss poor team overall. Like the Rangers are garbage, but that is through their own fault. The Sharks are just terrible. Like there is no upside to the Sharks. There's just low side, right? So to me, it's there. Thomas Hertl, it's just. Like he's not a player who shoots the puck a lot. He's not he's good. He's a good real life player. I just don't think he's a fantasy expect. The highest floor to me here is Lafreniere. He's got the floor there. Maybe the only player that was on that list there was Connor McMichael, and that's because again the Washington Capitals are a really good team. If he plays the wing in the top 6, good. But he's not always going to see that top power play unit special kind of thing, and now Ovi's back, and that might take a little bit of space away from him and everything. So I just feel like for Lafreniere, it can come. There is that upside. It's there. It's now it's a question of how long is he going to get it, and how long is it going to take the Rangers to turn this ship around, if they can turn it around. If not, Rangers could go out there and lose 6-5 for all I care. As long as they're taking L's and Lafreniere is finding the score sheet, I'm happy. That's it. He's one of our own.
So you're convincing me to give him a little bit more of a leash here, but how much more of a leash? I mean, are we talking 2 weeks, a month? What's my leash here?
As long as he's getting those top line minutes and those top power play minutes, like every other player on that list offensively would have to be getting the same thing and then outperforming him. Right? If Lafreniere goes back to that second unit, gets put with Zibanejad, or has to play with Matt Rempe or something, then fine. We can start to look for something, and we can consider that road now having to be explored. Right? We cross that bridge when we get there. But I don't know. I'm not going to put a time frame on it, just because again, as long as the opportunity is there, it's hard to look at a guy who's going to get that chance. We wanted him to be on the power play for so long. Now it's here, right? Now it's here. Now it's a question of just Like, get it done. Go out there, do what you got to do. He has scored, right? He was 1 shy of 30 last year. That was with no power play. So I'm the one grasping at straws here, but I think there's still enough there for him to contribute. And I don't expect the Rangers to be this terrible, right? Like, I want them to be bad, but just like a 45% bad. You know what I mean? Like, not like a 3% bad like they are right now. Like, they're miserable. That's just, and I love it, but maybe just be a little bit less miserable for my
a little
fantasy.
less miserable. That's the New Year's resolution. That's all we're hoping for this year. Just a little less miserable. All right. So even though Anthony's way would be more fun and I get to make a roster change, you've convinced me to hold on to Lafreniere a little bit longer in this league. I don't have to make, I'm 8-4. I'm second in points. I don't have to make any drastic shakeups. I'm not considering any centers because the wings are tough to come by in this league. And I already probably have one too many, and there's no trades in this league. So you really have to decide what you're going to do there. So if I was going to drop Laffy, it had to be for another wing. It wouldn't be for like a Logan Cooley type, even though, production wise, that might balance out. So I'm going to hold on to him for a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see. If I'm feeling like dropping him, I might text Anthony. I may not text you. So he enables me to do it.
And he'll tell you why you should.
Well, considering that you're in good standing right now, I think it's fine to hold on to him. But he just wasn't producing for me, and I got to get some like I gave you the stat lines from early December of the struggles that he's been going through. I can't have that on a nightly basis when I need to somehow bounce myself back into a playoff position.
You're in a position where you had to make something happen. Like you said, 1 goal and 1 assist since December 8th. It's not cutting it.
Yeah.
Looking at our league here, you mentioned so here we got Chris in first place, Gene in second. I'm tied with Gene points wise. He's got a couple more wins, so he gets a tiebreaker there. I'm playing Ant's brother, 1 point behind, but I've got a pretty good lead on him. We'll see how that goes throughout the week here. Still only Thursday. It's Thursday night, so a lot can change on a Thursday. Chris Wassel there in 5th, Wally Geis in 6th. Those are your top playoff teams right there. You mentioned all the transactions. Let's bring those up because there's been a lot of movement this week. So Noah Hannafin gets picked up by Wassel, Spurgeon out. So that's just a depth move there, another depth move there. A lot of depth defenseman moves. Jake DeBrusk to waivers yesterday for Luke Hughes. Something to consider with DeBrusk out there, the way he's been playing. Mike Matheson gets his fantasy value back over the course of the season. And then you mentioned there, Chris, earlier, the $51 Drake Patterson waiver claim.
I thought I was being cute with $16. That was my claim, I think. And then when I woke up and I got the email and it said I didn't get it because I was outbid, I went to go see him. I was like, oh man, did somebody put 17? And then I saw Gene he just opened the wallet. He took out a mortgage. He was like
25% of his budget.
He did. He went out there and he got all of them. And I was like, okay.
Gene really is your foil, Chris. He is your Joker to your Batman right now.
Yeah, he's right there. He's, great minds think alike. That's what I'm understanding from Gene. I don't know him, but I feel like he's a good guy. I feel like we could meet somewhere in LA, right? What is it? It's like halfway, I guess.
It's close to halfway without being in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Yes.
I'm sure like if I had the budget, maybe we could meet in Fiji or something, but LA draft would be just fine. Hawaii. Well, I mean, okay, sure. But like, so you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I would get along with Gene. It's unfortunate that now like Kirill's hurt and I can never have him. And if we ever do leagues again with Gene, I will never have him unless I take him, ridiculously high and get no value for him. But it was tough for the guy in second to make the move that I wanted. So I've been put on notice now. I gotta open the wallet a little bit more. I thought I was gonna get a discount on those Boxing Day deals. I didn't get it with Batherson, but I did get it with Lafreniere. So a win's a win.
Win's a win. Listen, and sometimes when you see guys that you want, you got to spend your budget that way. That's what you got to do. You're like, hey, I really want this guy. I'm willing to spend that much. All right. There's still plenty of season left, and most people still have at least 100, if not more, in their waiver budget. So we'll see if people start spending here, especially come trade deadline time when our guys' values change. So there we go. I wanted to do before we get into TMP and the Happy New Year's cutoff. We talked a little bit about the Rangers, and we talked a little about the Eastern Conference picture here. And you mentioned the Atlantic Division being one of the top one, being really tough, top to bottom. So if we're going to assume that the top three, the Capitals, Hurricanes, and Devils in the Metro are firmly locked in, which I don't see a reason not to think so. And then we know in the Atlantic, Toronto, Florida, Tampa, Boston, you're going to have three of those four teams get in, and then one of them will be the wild card. That leaves one of these teams on the screen here to get that eighth spot, which is currently the Ottawa Senators. You can see the odds there. Yes, to make the playoffs. No, at 162. Yes, minus 210. And then you see, courtesy of moneypuck.com, the percentage chance to make the playoffs. And then they're listed in standings order right now. You got games played and stuff like that to factor in. But yes, Ottawa's in that mix right now. But you can really make an argument for any of these teams if they got hot to take it, that they would take it. Just like we kind of saw down the stretch last year when nobody wanted that Metro 3 or the other wild card spot. So when you take a look at the screen here, is there anything that kind of like jumps out at you, or is it still way too early to try and figure out who's going to get that eighth spot? Because all these teams, they are what they are.
How about Columbus being only 2 points behind Ottawa for that final spot, and Montreal being only 3? I mean, no one would have ever thought that at the start of the season. But you know what? I am going to put the plus 1,200 on Montreal and support my friend Chris here and try to will their way to the playoff spot.
Wow.
My man. That's it. Look, that's a correct. That's the right answer. I don't know how else to say it. That's just the right answer. Ottawa. I took Ottawa not to make the playoffs at the beginning of the year, and obviously this is going to come down to the health of Linus Ullmark. Like if he's out of the lineup, like Ottawa's gotten a little bit better here, but I feel like they're frauds. Like they're not that good. So I don't know. Pittsburgh is let's just forget they exist. Columbus, like yes, they've played better. I don't know, man. I don't think they're a playoff team. I really don't.
The story would be great, though.
The story would be great. Yes, it would be absolutely great. I don't know why the Philadelphia Flyers are so much higher than the Columbus Blue Jackets when the Philadelphia Flyers are just not. They're also not a very good team. The Islanders, we can just disregard them. The Detroit Red Wings, I would not care about. Buffalo's been relegated. You can't lose 14 games in a row in a year and expect good things to happen. So the Rangers will decide if they decide to turn it around. But if you're trying to get some value on them, it's probably now is the good time because they were probably like minus 5,000 to make the playoffs at the beginning of the year. So now you can get a little bit there, and they're still a team with skill, right? They just got to figure it out. But yes, to me, it's the Montreal Canadiens here. This team is a wagon now. Like if you're not on board, I mean, there's still tickets, both English and French side, whichever side you want to join on here. But
oh, nice.
I know they went to Sunrise. They shut out the Florida Panthers. Then they beat the Tampa Bay Lightning in a game. Montreal had won exactly like they were okay, but they beat the Lightning. They go to Vegas. Then they're trailing. Heading into the third, Montreal had not won a game this season when trailing in the third. They come back, they win. Like this, again, another defending Stanley Cup champion. So, they are hot right now. Everybody in Montreal's talking about, Jake Evans and his 25% shooting percentage right now and whether he's going to stick around or, how he's probably going to be a first-round pick. Good friend of the show, obviously, Jared Moore said he would eat his hat if Jake Evans goes for a first-round pick. So, I don't know how Jared likes his hat seasoned. Maybe some salt, maybe some pepper, maybe some Montreal, beef sauce. I don't know. Whatever he needs, I'll send it down because Montreal also once upon a time got a first-round pick for Ben Sherrod. So anything is possible here. If Montreal's going to be moving on from guys, it might be that. But the addition of Patrick Laine has obviously helped. This team is, there's a lot of confidence. Montreal's fourth line is what's making a difference here because they not only are they contributing offensively, but they are sound defensively. Montreal's worst line by far, 5-on-5, is Kirby Dach's line with Laine. Like they're not out there to play defense. And it shows, man. Kirby Dach looks like I do on a Monday night in my men's league. It's defensively, we are like, that's not our responsibility. But the play of Lane Hudson has been good. Carrier coming over has really solidified that blue line. Dobbs is up in Montreal now. Caden Primo's cleared waivers, and he was electric in his first start. Very, very good. He's going to get more playing time, as he should, so that Samuel Montembeault doesn't get run into the ground. So there's lots of positivity here. And if you're superstitious like I am, like Montreal hasn't lost since Marty St. Louis grew a beard. Maybe Lou Lamoriello one day will see the power of the beard and maybe consider changing his worst rule in hockey. But as long as Marty doesn't shave, I think the Montreal Canadiens are going to be fine. Like, he may end up looking like Santa Claus in June, but 8%, I think, is probably fair, but I would definitely sprinkle in. Montreal Canadiens are there. They can do it. This is what we thought. This is a team that's going to mature. Who knows? Maybe they're buyers at the deadline for a change. That'd be fun.
All because of Patrick Laine bringing the juice.
The magic of Patrick Laine on the power play. Montreal's cooled off here a little bit on the power play, as expected, but they're playing much better as a team. In that game against Florida, they held the Panthers to only 5 high danger scoring chances. The Montreal Canadiens on the road played well defensively. Like, that was a shocker in itself. So as long as this team commits to executing, playing well, it's going to be fine. They're going to go through their period here where it's going to get tough because their January schedule is brutal. But if you can come out of January not too beat up, right? If you go 500 in January, just keep yourself in the conversation. February, they got some time off because of the Four Nations Cup, so you can heal, rest all the little bumps and bruises, right? They can make a run here, but this second half of the season is going to be very important for them.
I think you're right when you say you can, on the right, you can eliminate the Islanders, the Red Wings. I've picked to finish dead last in the Atlantic. Buffalo's done. Anybody, I know you want to write Pittsburgh off. I don't know. If they're still hanging around, at the end of the season, I'm not picking them out of this group. But I wouldn't write them off yet. Yeah, Columbus would be a nice story, but I see them fading. I think to me it's down and I know Philly, it's like, why Philly? But they hang around too. So, I mean, it's Ottawa, Philly, Montreal for me. If the Rangers all of a sudden in the next couple of weeks start to get it together, maybe they play their way back in. But I would say Ottawa, Philly, or Montreal would be the 3 I'd pick from.
The Islanders have the 3rd worst goal differential. They've been playing awful all season long. And somehow the Rangers have been able to top that bad play, which is mind-boggling to me with all the stars that are on that team. If I got to pick 3 teams, I'm going to go with Ottawa. I'm going to go with the story of Columbus. And I'm going to, like I said earlier, Montreal. Those are my 3.
So no love for Detroit here. I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
I got nothing for Detroit.
Because Steve Yzerman in his presser, when he when he was, they were talking about, McLeod becoming coach, he's like, well, if you have any he was telling me, if you have any suggestions, please tell me. And I felt like telling, Steve, well, whatever you're doing now, just do the exact opposite. Everything you have done to this point has been miserable. Like you've gone out, you've handed out terrible contracts to aging veterans. This team looks a mess. Nothing is working. They're horrible. So whatever you're doing, do the exact opposite of it. That would be my New Year's suggestion for Steve Yzerman. Whatever you've been doing, stop doing it. Like if you're gonna turn left on the street, stop, turn right instead. This team might be rebuilding for another 10 years.
We talked about poor outdoor game matchups earlier. Detroit Columbus is going to be the game this year, of course. So maybe you'll get a good game because both teams are in that like lower echelon, so they're a little more even. But Detroit, it's getting bad there. I mean, I don't understand why coming into the year with like the goaltenders they had in the mix. I understand you have contracts, you got to deal with those, but I don't see any reason why anybody thought Detroit was going to do anything but finish among the bottom 2 teams in the Atlantic this year.
Their best goalie is in the American Hockey League right now. That's the guy who should be at some point down the stretch 50-50 splitting with whoever is up there. Like that should be it. Sebastian Kovach should be the guy who's getting a couple of starts here and there. He's been really good in the AHL. He's been really good with Grand Rapids, and Then it's still Detroit runs out whatever other bums they can find here. Cam Talbot's half beaten body, Alex Lyon. I think Ville Husso's still alive. So, I mean, again, Steve Yzerman gave those contracts. So the only person he has to blame is himself for assembling what is just a god-awful team.
I mean, if you need some inspiration, I mean, I know it's different, situations. One team is bound for the playoffs, the other one is not. But Colorado flipped over their entire goaltending situation within a couple of weeks. I know it's not as it's easier said than done, especially with the contract situations for Talbot and Alex Lyon. But if Colorado could figure it out, maybe you can figure it out. I mean, the second a goalie gets hurt, and it's not obviously the Rangers are not in a position to be buying one, and they certainly won't be bringing Talbot or Lyon in. But at some point, like you got to change something there. That's not the only problem in Detroit, but that's kind of where it starts for me. And then the blue line, and then there's just no depth there. It's just at every level, it's just not a good situation with the Red Wings.
Their pizza's not even that good.
It's over. Detroit style pizza's overrated. Stop.
It's not even that good.
Oh, I have a problem with Detroit. I like the city of Detroit. It's just, I like you said, what is Steve Yzerman doing there?
A lot of rich history there in Detroit. But this team that they have on the ice right now is like I would not cancel my plans to watch Detroit and the Islanders play, let's say. But I do
Red Wings or Islander fans wouldn't cancel their plans to watch those two play.
It would cure insomnia though. If you had trouble sleeping though, that game would help you out quite a bit. You can watch Lou Lamoriello and like Steve Yzerman talk about the good old days together. See which team has more grit per 60.
Do you think Lou makes it through the end of the year? He makes it to the end of the year, but do you think he makes it into next season, I should say?
He's so Teflon. He's going to go out on his own whenever that is. I mean, there's been so many opportunities already to let this guy go, and he's still around. I just don't get it.
I mean, leave him there, I guess. I mean, the Islanders they don't look like a competitive hockey team, so you know what I mean? Like when the Islanders finally decide that they want to be competitive and be a good team and not waste away the years of Ilya Sorokin, then they'll decide to be good. As somebody who watched an elite goalie waste away for close to 2 decades, like it's probably be a good idea to go out there and provide some goal support when you got an elite goalie. But just a thought.
All right, so there we go. So we talked a little Lafreniere. We talked Eastern Conference wild card too. We went through the headlines. Still got a couple of things we got to get to here. 2 more. TMP, and then we're going to talk a little Happy New Year's cutoff. So I had 2 picks coming into today because when I was looking at it, I didn't know what the goalie matchup was going to be for the Lightning and Sharks. Initially, I wanted the Lightning on the puck line minus a puck and a half, minus 109, but it looks like Askarov is going to start tonight for San Jose. I made that pick thinking Georgiev would, selfishly hoping Georgiev would start tonight and I would get Askarov on Saturday because I'm going to the Sharks Devils game down in San Jose. So I wanted to see Askarov. Now it looks like I'm probably going to get Georgiev, which I'm not really happy about because they've been alternating. Sometimes they'll go 2 games for a guy and then 2 games. So maybe I'll get lucky. So now I got to pull that off the board. I can't do that because now I don't, maybe Askarov keeps it a little bit closer. I thought Tampa Bay would light up Georgiev. So my backup pick is going to be the Vegas Golden Knights minus a puck and a half, plus 127 versus the Flyers. Philly got a 4-0 win against the Sharks on Tuesday. Did not look good that game. But I think it's a big step up an opponent here for Philly. Vegas has covered this puck line in 5 straight wins prior to the aforementioned loss to the Canadiens on New Year's Eve. And Philly has failed to cover this in 6 of their 8 losses, or 6 of their last 8 losses, I should say. So I'm going to take Vegas minus a puck and a half, plus 127 against the Flyers tonight.
That sounds fair.
Wish I could have taken the Lightning, but I'm going to get screwed both ways out of making the pick and out of seeing Askarov finally on Saturday.
But you do get to see Celebrini, so technically it's a win.
And I get to root against it. And the giveaway is top notch. They're giving away like these beach cooler bags with like the bottom is like a zipper cooler pouch where you can fit like a good 4 or 5 cans in there. And then the top is like, you can put your towel, your beach blanket. Like when
you've been talking about this game. I remember that.
And here's the thing, like that's the one benefit of being a bad team. When you're a bad team, the giveaways usually go up exponentially in quality. So I'm very excited to get my beach bag.
I mean, the Montreal Canadiens has been bad for a couple of years, and they're like the giveaways are not, you know what I mean? They're not that great.
Let me add to that. You have to be bad, and you have to want people to come to your games. Although I'm not happy with the team because they had these, SJ Sharkey is the mascot for the Sharks. And instead of Elf on the Shelf, they did like a Santa Claus version of SJ Sharkey for people who are buying flex plans into Christmas. I email my rep. I'm like, hey, I've bought 5 games this year. I understand it might be for new people, but, maybe you could send me one, and I slipped in that I'm like, I was a Ranger season ticket holder for a long time. And these are the little things that go a long way in retaining people and blah, blah, blah. Nothing. It's like, and there's just a box of those things sitting in a room, and I'm going to go to the game on Saturday, and they're going to be selling them for like $15, $20. I'm going to be very mad.
Damn. I wonder how
I want my Santa Sharky.
I mean, you heard it here first, man. San Jose Sharks, make it happen.
Gonna have to sneak one into that cooler bag.
If all of those San Jose Sharkies go missing, though, then it's like the Yager bobblehead thing.
Yes.
And you outed yourself here. So I just when the CIA comes asking questions, I promise to not out you on the first try, though. I'll tell them I don't speak. I know. You're right. You just want one. That's all, it's all the San Jose Sharks have to give you is just one. I wanted them to score 1 goal against the Flyers, and alas, I didn't get that either. So
it's something that they're good at disappointing. Not as good as last year when they would disappoint you every game, but a little more competitive. Now that's my pick. Chris, what do you got?
I am going to trust the Colorado Avalanche to do some damage tonight. I'm going to take them in regulation. Buffalo is in town. Surprise, surprise. The Buffalo Sabres are not a very good hockey team. I know Terry Lekkonen's not in the Valerie Nichushkin's on the lineup. He's out. Doesn't matter. Colorado has been wailing on their opponents recently. And again, for all the reasons we've stated here, Mackenzie Blackwood seems to have figured it out. Colorado has, they've scored 4 more goals in their last 5 games. Yes, Buffalo has played better, but Colorado is a really good team on home ice, or at least they should be. They're healthy. They should be able to dominate from start to finish. Strong performance from Mackenzie Blackwood. It's all I need. I don't need him to be elite. Just be decent. Give up 2 goals or something. And then I just need Colorado to fill the net. 5-6 would be great. That's it. So Colorado in regulation, I'm going to try to steal some value there because I don't want to play the money line. I also sprinkled in a little bit of Colorado's puck line because Colorado has, like I said, covered that in their last 5. So you can go either way there. But yes, I expect the Colorado Avalanche to ring the Buffalo Sabres into the new year with an L.
Better hope Mackenzie Blackwood didn't hear what you said earlier, considering you got so much invested in him tonight.
I just want him to be not miserable when I need him. That's it. This is a business. You know what I mean? This is a purely professional relationship between Mackenzie Blackwood and myself. Just deliver the goods and then, go on your merry way.
There you go. And do we have a pick tonight for TNT?
We do.
What do we got?
We do. We have Carolina at Florida. I'm going over 5.5 goals. I think it's -115. I think it is on DraftKings. But these two teams played earlier in the season, right after Thanksgiving. Panthers won both games. First one 6-3 and then 6-0. And these teams have been giving up a good amount of goals here. Last 4 games for the Hurricanes, there have at least been 6 goals scored or 7. And then for Florida, it's up there as well. So I thought maybe go a little over here on the goalage 5.5 for this game.
Ant does love his goal totals.
I do.
He doesn't want to pick sides. He's like a dad who doesn't want to choose between which kid is his favorite. So he's just like, you know what? You're both my favorite. I both want you to succeed.
Well, and as you guys know, this is like my first foray into the hockey betting world, and I've kind of found the little niche here that I'm going to stick to that little corner and stick to picking these goals. And what am I 500 right now?
500 right now. There's nothing wrong with picking totals. Totals are fun, and hockey probably because it's usually pretty uniform. It's going to be 6, 5.5, 6.5. If it's going to be you don't see a lot of. I don't think I've seen a 7 yet this season. And I think maybe there might have been a small handful of 5s, but usually in that range. So it's an easy way to get into it, and you'll get frustrated. You'll have your wins, you'll have your losses, you'll get frustrated, you'll have your backdoor coverage, you'll have all that good stuff. But anytime you're going over on a 5.5, with both teams capable of scoring, Kochetkov has not been that strong for the Hurricanes lately. Got a couple of Russian netminders going tonight with Bobrovsky and Kochetkov. So yeah, Kochetkov, maybe you attack him here. He lets a couple by. Carolina's got to come down. Certainly possible. It's easy to get to 6. So there you go. So there's your TMP. And finally, it is January 2nd. It does come up. We're going to try and establish what the proper decorum is for when the cutoff is for Happy New Year's. Like when you walk into a store and you buy something and they say Happy New Year on the way out, or you see a colleague you haven't seen, So what date are we now? This year, I think you have to at least consider January 6th or 7th, because a lot of people have either been off or the office has been skeleton crew the last couple of weeks. So you have to say, it's rude if you don't say it to your colleagues and your coworkers coming back. So I think we're okay, even going as far as Tuesday the 7th. But how far and now maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe you guys nope, today's the day and that's it. Where do we see it this year for 2025?
I was going to give it the month. I was going to give it all of January. Happy New Year.
That's unacceptable.
That's way too long.
That's too long.
Are you putting up your Christmas tree in November?
Yeah.
Well, that explains it. So no, that is way too long.
Right after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it depends where Thanksgiving falls, because sometimes Thanksgiving is the 3rd week, sometimes it's the 4th week.
Sometimes it's in October, regular people.
In your neck of the woods, it is.
Right.
Yes.
So the 6th is the end. As of Monday, like you said, you probably, you're going back to the office or whatnot. You've seen, all the important people you've said Happy New Year to. Like, if you skip out on a couple of people you don't care for, it's fine. You know what I mean? I won't take it personally. But as of the 7th, if you're like Happy New Year, it's like, I get it. I'm 7 days into it. Like, thanks.
A week.
Yeah. That's it. It's good. It's good enough for me. No. After the 6th by 11:59, that's it.
So you're not even going to give the Tuesday. You're not even going to give the, I didn't see on Monday, because it's busy first day back in the office. That's it. You didn't get it by 5 o'clock.
Go on your Teams chat, your Slack chat, whatever that corporate chat that you use. You get back in the office, you say, hey, Happy New Year, wish you all the best, yada, 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 move on. Blanketed statement. That's it.
Now, I also think there's levels to this too, because it's not okay, there's the office one, but then there's the you're out grocery shopping and somebody says Happy New Year to you. I think if it's the Happy New, the outside of the office, people will say it to you. I think once you get into double digits for the dates, that's when it has to stop. I'll give you 9 days. I'll give you a little more than a week. And if it's a year where the dates didn't fall the way they did, it would probably be even less.
So until the 9th is what you're saying. So
I'll say the 9th. I'll say
you're
allowed
7 business days.
7 business days a week. By the way, 4-0 Finland. As early in the second, 36 seconds into the second.
Yeah, no. By the 6th, we're done.
All right. So Chris says the 6th. I say the 9th. Ant's okay with the 31st.
I guess we'll wish Ed a Happy New Year on the 28th of January.
Hey guys, Super Bowl's in a couple weeks. Happy New Year.
There you go.
Perfect.
I don't know if there's a better way to wrap than that. All right, fellas. Let's see what we got here. We got to get through our end of stuff here. And then the next Slapshot podcast coming out
tomorrow. Brand new episode, Slapshot podcast. First puck doku of the year. Let's see if I can start 2025 off with a little bit of a bang here. Let's see if I can figure that out.
And then the hot stove in MLB is not quite so hot.
No, it's pretty cold. It's always cold. I feel like the off season in baseball is possibly the worst. Obviously, hockey and basketball, they're everyone is already signed within the first 24 hours. At least all the big players. And here you just wait and wait and wait. But I guess that's good for me because I have things to talk about since Pete Alonso's not signed. But this is now the time where things start to slow down in topics. So gonna have to figure something out. I don't know if I'll take a break or two, but thankfully spring training is the second week of February. So
That's right. We are not that far away. We're a little little over a month away from spring training, pitchers and catchers, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And I can see both sides of the coin there because NBA, NHL free agency, everything happens that first 48 hours. NFL kind of gets dragged out, like maybe we'll call it a week max. Baseball, it's slow, but like you said, it does kind of keep, when somebody signs, it's something. It's not like, okay, everybody signs by Christmas and then you go dark till basically pitchers and catchers, although it kind of feels that way sometimes. Rip and Riff was off last week. We'll be back next week, first episode of the new year with that Mr. Jared Moore and myself there. So there we go. Fellas, we're in the new year here. This is what, the third year of Total Hockey Now, technically?
Yeah.
Here we go. Third year.
That goes by fast. Yeah.
It does go by pretty quick. You're right. Also, this is probably going to be the last time we see our friend at Ant Rivera 86 for a little while here. Kudos and early congratulations with a baby on the way. So probably won't see Ant for a little while unless he's holding a little one there.
Yeah, little Total Hockey Now is on his way.
Little THN. There we go. His initials have to be THN Rivera. Tomas Hurdle, Nico. There we go. That's something like that. For Ant Rivera 86 and Fuzzy Chris 91, I'm at Pucking Thoughts. Be back with you next week with an all new episode of Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now YouTube channel.